Clonogh O'Rahilly GFC was founded in November 1916 after a meeting of like-minded souls took place in the townland of Anniversary. Unfortunately, the exact location has been lost to history. This was a time of a tremendous upswell in patriotic fervour in the aftermath of the 1916 Rising and the execution of many of its leaders in May and August of that year. Indeed, those who founded the club opted to name it after Michael Rahilly, or the O'Rahilly, a flamboyant Kerryman who was the only leader of the Rising to be killed in action. Among those who represented the club in their first game were Pat Moore O'Neill, Dan McCabe, Mick O'Neill, Peter Hughes, Joseph O'Neill and John Hearn. That match resulted in a resounding defeat by Donaghmore on a rather unflattering scoreline of 0-13 to no score. Thankfully, that was not an indication of things to come. The new club played their first games initially at a field owned by Terence McGrath in Anniversary, and then in later years at the Dales, and on a field at the Moor Bridge which was owned by club stalwart and legendary character John Frank Hughes. Eventually the club were in a position to purchase their own playing field in 1952 at the present location at O'Rahilly Park. In fact, apart from Omagh, the O'Rahillys were the first club in Tyrone to actually own their own ground. Again, in later years the club were first in the field in the county when it opened its own social centre in 1973. These successes are indicative of the get-up-and-go entrepreneurial spirit of the club which still exists today. Throughout the 1920s and 30s, the club gradually began to exert itself on the East Tyrone county scene. The club adopted the all-white colour still used today in 1931 and reached its first county final in 1941, only to be beaten by Moortown St Malachy's, who were at the time considered to be the dominant team of the era. Outstanding players of this period were Mick the Swimmer O'Neill, Joe the Swimmer O'Neill and Peter Mulgrew, who represented Tyrone. Although there were some near misses in the 1940s, it was during the years of the 50s and 1960s that the O'Rahillys finally made the breakthrough to county senior honours, and they made it in spectacular fashion. It was in these years that saw Clonogh's reputation as a powerhouse of Tyrone football established beyond all doubt. The club annexed the O'Neill Cup 3 times on the trot from 1958 to 1960 and secured it again in consecutive years in 1964 and 1965. Besides these successes, the club also contested finals in 1952, 53 and 56. Their style of football at this time was exemplified by robust defending, high fielding and marvellous score-taking, all underpinned by a ferocious competitiveness which has always been a hallmark of the club. Hit hard by the upsurge of the Troubles in the north of Ireland during the 1970s and 80s, the O'Rahillys nevertheless managed to notch up intermediate championship success in 1976 and 79, and again in 1983, and were eventually rewarded for their perseverance and indomitable spirit when the club reached the senior county final in 1988, only to fall to Omagh St Enda's. However, the long wait for overdue senior championship success ended in 1991 when Clonogh were pitted against neighbours and fierce rivals Carlisle and Fianna. That memorable victory ended a wait of 23 years and also denied Carlisle their holy grail of 3 championships in a row. 1995 saw the club record a notable success when it secured the Intermediate League and Championship double, remaining undefeated during that campaign. In 1998, another historic milestone was reached with the opening of the magnificent new community centre. As proof of the club's continuing ability to produce outstanding young talent, the county under-21 titles were claimed in 1997 and 2001, together with the minor championship title of 2001. In 1992, the club produced 2 All-Ireland under-21 players for Tyrone, Cathal McCabe and Kieran Hughes, whilst in 1998, 2 players from the club, Ryan O'Neill and Martin Hughes, were All-Ireland minor winning medalists. Indeed, the O'Reillys have consistently produced players of a very high standard. As well as the aforementioned Mick the Swimmer O'Neill and Peter Mulgrew in the 1940s, in the 1950s and 60s, Clonaux produced talented footballers such as John Joe O'Hagan, Seamus and Mickey the Rebel O'Neill, Felix McCabe, and Tom Fox, to name but a few. In later years, the club was proud to have produced 3 players to represent Tyrone in their first ever All-Ireland final appearance in 1986, namely Kevin McCabe and Harry and Mickey McClure. As to the future, it remains as bright and as full of potential as ever for Clonaux O'Reilly's GFC. With top-class facilities, talented young players and an ever-loyal support, it will surely not be long before the O'Neill Cup is once again resting at the corner. The committee of Clonaux O'Reilly's GSC would like to extend a very warm welcome to those in attendance at tonight's gala to celebrate 90 years in the life of a very special club. Thank you most sincerely for your support. Go raibh mai agah agus go ndéiríonn talamh.
for Clonogh-Rahilly's Gala banquet. Would you please welcome, and led in by your chairman, Sean McAlliskey, will you welcome Pat Darcy, the Tyrone County chairman, Micheál O'Murra Hurtig, and the wee man with the big heart, your comedian tonight, Niall Crozier. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a few things we have to get through. And with that in mind, would you please give a very special welcome to your chairman and your host tonight, Sean McAlliskey.
Hello, everybody. Folks, it's nice to welcome you here to Armagh City Hotel tonight for this, the 90th birthday of Clonogh-Rahilly's GAFC. A very proud club it is. I'd like you to put your hands together, just as Adrian said, for our guests. Also for Adrian, and especially the committee that I have worked with this 11 or 12 months in organising this event. There was hours and hours of work went into it, and I hope you have an enjoyable night. I thank each and every one of you for your support, not alone in tonight's event, but in every event that this club has run down through the years. I would also like, at this moment in time, to spare a thought for our deceased. On numerous occasions, this has been mentioned, but as you know, people come and go, but the club still goes on. Gora Mila, my ugad.
Ladies and gentlemen, show your appreciation for your chairman. I tell you what, this is going to be a lively night as far as I can see. Would you please now welcome the chairman of the Tyrone County Board, Mr. Pat Darcy, to the podium. Pat.
Reverend Fathers, Cahirlick, Sean McAlliskey, former Uachtar and Cumulus Cascale, Sean Kelly, I believe is on his way and he hasn't arrived yet. Distinguished guests, first of all, I'd like to welcome the large crowd, and to see such a big crowd is indicative of the high regard in which the Clonogh Club is held. I'd also like to pay compliments to the people who organised tonight, all the hard work that went into that, all the professionalism. Look, you only have to look around how professionally this is organised. And there's no other sport anywhere in Ireland could bring out a crowd to a gala like this, like the GA clubs can. So you deserve to give yourselves a clap and a pat on the back. Tonight you're celebrating 90 years of Clonogh-O'Rahilly's. Although GAA did exist in Clonogh Parish going back over 100 years. As your chairman said, it's important that you remember your deceased tonight, particularly all the great people who worked so hard to form your club back in those early parts of the last century. Imagine the difficulties they faced, because we're in the middle of the 1916 Rising. We later had a war of independence followed by a civil war, with the Great War 1914-18, and the Irish famine was still in the living memory of most people at that time. And yet brave men around Clonogh decided to form a football club and sustain it through all those difficult times. I know they're now all deceased, but the difficulties those men faced must have been horrendous. But nevertheless, they believed in the ideals of the GAA, and they wanted to bring it to Clonogh and make it a success. Congratulate your club. You only have to look at the second last page in your programme at the Roll of Honour for Clonogh-Rahilly's. 6 Tyrone senior football champions, numerous other championships over the years, intermediate, junior and youth. Today you're a very vibrant club. You have a strong membership base. You're working hard to promote the Gaels of Cumulus Class Gael for Gaelic games and culture. And you also have terrific club grounds and a social centre. So today you're a very, very strong club. I'd also like to congratulate and thank your club for all the great players they've produced for our county teams over the years. You go back to 1956, John Joe O'Hagan was a member of the first Tyrone senior football team to win the Ulster Championship. And then in 1986, you had Kevin McCabe, Harry McClure and Mickey McClure, the first Tyrone team to get to Croke Park to play in an All-Ireland senior football final. And I know the gods were not shining them that day, they did lose. Nevertheless, that was the game that put Tyrone senior football on the big stage, and 3 Tyrone men were involved. Because the big stage, believe it or not, is Croke Park on All-Ireland final day. And ever since 1986, when we broke that duck, we've never looked back since, and now we're there quite often. Also, you've produced to our county over the years administrators like Jimmy Tracy, who's done a lot of work for the county, a lot of work for Ulster, and is now working at provincial level. And the person in Clonaux that I would know most would be the man that I would call Mr. Clonaux, Joe McCabe. Because over the decades I'd have bumped into Joe at meetings and more recently at disciplinary meetings, and I can tell you he fights Clonaux's corner tooth and nail. So you should be very proud of him. Tonight is a celebration, but tonight you're also building for the future. And you need to continue to invest in your youth, in your facilities, and promote our games and culture going forward. A strong, united, integrated club is what we need, and that is what you are. We need to embrace change as you move into the future. And change comes from all sorts of angles. First of all, a lot of the change now comes from science. You only have to look at the way we're preparing our county teams, preparing our club teams. The thought that goes into diet, body mass, body fat, biology, you know, the ergonomics of the body, it's all now scientific, and that is something we have to embrace. Again, we have to embrace new technologies. 10 years ago, who would have believed that all our correspondence today would be by emails? Or who would have believed you could pick up your mobile phone on the home way from a match and get the results of all the other club games in Tyrone? So we have to embrace those changes, even though that we may find them difficult. But we also have to embrace in the future unforeseen events. This year, for example, we're spending £1.5 million in Healy Park. And that is a direct result of disasters that happened at football grounds, particularly Hillsborough, Heysel, and the dreadful fire in Bradford Stadium. And because of that and new health and safety legislation, we now have to make our county grounds safe for our spectators. Or who would have believed that 9/11 would have this year made it so difficult for the Ulster Council to play the Ulster Senior Hurling Championship final because the New York lads couldn't travel to Ireland because of the immigration that come in after 9/11. And the way that is now impacting on the whole GA in America. So we can't plan for these unforeseen events. Or you take the tragic death of Cormac McAnallen. Every GA club now is having a defibrillator. All our major grounds have to have defibrillators. And only yesterday, Croke Park announced that all our young players need to be screened. So those are things that come in as a result of disasters. But what we need to do as you move forward is to embrace the future, embrace change, see problems as challenges, because that's what your ancestors did, and that is why you're such a great club today. So tonight is very much about celebrating, but it's also a fundraising event for your club. So I would like you to put your hands in your pocket whenever you get the chance tonight, or whenever you're asked to do so, because it's all going to a good cause, and it's all going to the Clonaux Club. Gora mai agad.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tyrone have had unprecedented success in recent times on the field of play, and perhaps too often we're too quick to attack the likes of the county board. But the Tyrone County Board, under the leadership and stewardship of Pat Darcy, has done a fantastic job for the county. I think we'll show our appreciation at a much greater level towards Pat. He also made a particularly good point. The key to tonight is having a wee bit of crack, but it's also selling every one of the footballs. The footballs are £20 a head, folks. Dig deep. It's not for Adrian Logan and Dungannon Clark's. I'm a Clark's man, in case you didn't know. It's my line I always say when I come to these events. When you buy a football at £20, you're buying into the future. You're buying into the future for your children in Clonoe, and you're following those brave men that Pat talked about back in 1916 who began the club. I also had to pick you up on one point as well too, Pat. There was many a brave Clonoe woman as well, I would have thought played her part in getting that all together. But ladies and gentlemen, I also, before I would like to move on, we're going to say a grace. There's a couple of people I want to mention. I'm not going to mention everybody, but I see you talk about the great John Joe Hagan. His son, one of our greatest ever, Damien O'Hagan, is with us here tonight. One of the best players we ever had for Tyrone. And a man who I always rated because he was a wee dirty so-and-so, John Lynch, one of the greatest ever. Good man, Lyncher. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please show courtesy and respect. Father Samir will come forward and say grace.
I have to say that I love events like this. It gives you a chance to dress up, and it gives me a chance to dress up. Anyway, your club, like every club, the success of it can be seen in the trophies that you have won, on display in your club rooms, the medals on display in your home family rooms. And all of that we pay tribute to tonight, and we thank God for all your efforts. But also the success of a club is on the community that you have built. This community here tonight, the community in our parish, this community that has been bonded and forged and formed because of yourselves and the people who have gone before you. So tonight we thank God not only for your club, but for the sense of community that has come together over these 90 years. And you're proud of that community. And you've every reason to be proud of that community. Tonight we thank not only the stars of the field, but the stars of the backroom staff. All those people who so generously give of their time to make your club the great club that it is. But tonight at the start of our proceedings, I'd like you just to spend a little moment in thanksgiving for the people who have contributed to your club over the 90 years and who are not with us, those who have died. And in the 2 short but very happy years that I've been in the parish, I've been privileged to be with you at the sad occasions of the death of your family members, of your club members. So tonight we pay our respects to them in just a little moment or two in silence. And our grace before meals. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which are of thy bounty, we're about to receive, through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Father, thanks very much indeed. And the lads in the committee tell me there's not too many footballs left, so maybe you should pick it up on a Sunday fast. A good idea, walking charge everybody a score for a football walk on the Sunday, good for the collection. Boys and girls, you're going to have a terrific night here tonight, I can tell it already. Listen, fantastic audience. Sit back and enjoy. As I say, if you can please spare a wee bit more, let's make the footballs a complete and utter sellout. We're going to have some great entertainment later on. Obviously going to be served our meal now, and we'll be back to you during the course of that meal to talk to a few of the dignitaries and sporting personalities we have with us here this evening. We're now going to bring the house lights down again, because we're going to show a very special DVD on your big screens here in Armagh City. I know you're going to enjoy this. This is a brief history of the proud history of Clonoe Rahilly's. Your best attention. Thank you.
Clonoe O'Rahilly GFC was founded in November 1916 after a meeting of like-minded souls took place in the townland of Anniversary. Unfortunately, the exact location has been lost to history. This was a time of a tremendous upswell in patriotic fervour in the aftermath of the 1916 Rising and the execution of many of its leaders in May and August of that year. Indeed, those who founded the club opted to name it after Michael Rahilly, or the O'Rahilly, a flamboyant Kerryman who was the only leader of the Rising to be killed in action. Among those who represented the club in their first game were Pat Moore O'Neill, Dan McCabe, Mick O'Neill, Peter Hughes, Joseph O'Neill and John Hearn. That match resulted in a resounding defeat by Donaghmore on a rather unflattering scoreline of 0-13 to no score. Thankfully, that was not an indication of things to come. The new club played their first games initially at a field owned by Terence McGrath in Anniversary, and then in later years at the Dales, and on a field at the Moor Bridge which was owned by club stalwart and legendary character John Frank Hughes. Eventually, the club were in a position to purchase their own playing field in 1952 at the present location at O'Rahilly Park. In fact, apart from Omagh, the O'Rahillys were the first club in Tyrone to actually own their own ground. Again, in later years, the club were first in the field in the county when it opened its own social centre in 1973. These successes are indicative of the get-up-and-go entrepreneurial spirit of the club which still exists today. Throughout the 1920s and 30s, the club gradually began to exert itself on the East Tyrone county scene. The club adopted the all-white colours still used today in 1931 and reached its first county final in 1941, only to be beaten by Muirtown St Malachy's, who were at the time considered to be the dominant team of the era. Outstanding players of this period were Mick the Swimmer O'Neill, Joe the Swimmer O'Neill and Peter Mulgrew, who represented Tyrone. Although there were some near misses in the 1940s, it was during the years of the 50s and 1960s that the O'Rahillys finally made the breakthrough to county senior honours, and they made it in spectacular fashion. It was in these years that saw Clonoe's reputation as a powerhouse of Tyrone football established beyond all doubt. The club annexed the O'Neill Cup 3 times on the trot from 1958 to 1960 and secured it again in consecutive years in 1964 and 1965. Besides these successes, the club also contested finals in 1952, 53 and 56. Their style of football at this time was exemplified by robust defending, high fielding and marvellous score-taking, all underpinned by a ferocious competitiveness, which has always been a hallmark of the club. Hit hard by the upsurge of the Troubles in the north of Ireland during the 1970s and 80s, the O'Rahillys nevertheless managed to notch up intermediate championship success in 1976 and 79, and again in 1983, and were eventually rewarded for their perseverance and indomitable spirit when the club reached the senior county final in 1988, only to fall to Omagh St Enda's. However, the long wait for overdue senior championship success ended in 1991 when Clonoe were pitted against neighbours and fierce rivals Carlisle and Fianna. That memorable victory ended a wait of 23 years and also denied Carlisle their holy grail of 3 championships in a row. 1995 saw the club record a notable success when it secured the Intermediate League and Championship double, remaining undefeated during that campaign. In 1998, another historic milestone was reached with the opening of the magnificent new community centre. As proof of the club's continuing ability to produce outstanding young talent, the county under-21 titles were claimed in 1997 and 2001, together with the minor championship title of 2001. In 1992, the club produced 2 All-Ireland under-21 players for Tyrone, Cathal McCabe and Kieran Hughes, whilst in 1998, 2 players from the club, Ryan O'Neill and Martin Hughes, were All-Ireland minor winning medalists. Indeed, the O'Rahillys have consistently produced players of a very high standard, as well as the aforementioned Mick the Swimmer O'Neill and Peter Mulgrew in the 1940s. In the 1950s and 60s, Clonaux produced talented footballers such as John Joe O'Hagan, Seamus and Mickey the Rebel O'Neill, Felix McCabe and Tom Fox, to name but a few. In later years, the club was proud to have produced 3 players to represent Tyrone in their first ever All-Ireland final appearance in 1986, namely Kevin McCabe and Harry and Mickey McClure. As to the future, it remains as bright and as full of potential as ever for Clonaux O'Rahilly's GFC. With top-class facilities, talented young players and an ever-loyal support, it will surely not be long before the O'Neill Cup is once again resting at the corner. The committee of Clonaux O'Rahilly's GSC would like to extend a very warm welcome to those in attendance at tonight's gala to celebrate 90 years in the life of a very special club. Thank you most sincerely for your support. Go raibh mai agah agus go ndéiríonn an talamh.
Ladies and gentlemen, Terry Dunlop was responsible for the video. The script was written by Colin O'Neill and the voiceover was done by Oliver Corr. Clonaux, your history. And just to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, that at the end of this night, which is all being filmed as well, they're going to put that beautiful Davy Spillane tape, that nice voiceover you had, and the highlights of this together on a special DVD, which will go on sale as a special memento of the evening. I'm sure you'll want to support that as well too. The club will do that fairly shortly. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, he arrived late. Doesn't matter that he arrived late. He's always very special. I'm delighted to say I can think that I can call him a very dear friend. I've only known him a very short time, really. I think he's done an awful lot for association. He'll continue to do so. Would you please give a very special welcome from Clonaux GFC to former president of the Common Class Scale, Sean Kelly.
Good lucky. Our Cahilic to Kunte, Utron, agus Cahilic, coming around at Clonaux, agus Cardillig. Tá ahas mór am bhein bhfuil meascanacht ag an ócáid fiotana ag seo díobse mar bhfuil si ceiliúra neidir bliain ar an saoil seo. Agus a rion tréimhse seo tá lán gasca déanta gibh, bhí lán búta gibh, stoch go raibh drolla henta gibh comá, ach tá an sprid a bhí ann nuair a bunaíodh sibh beo fós agus le feics cin go sa léir an seonacht. Tá níos mó ná 600 duine an seo, tá bhí sin cogárachas díobh agus míle buchas as ach an curthútam sa bhéin bhór measc. Adrian said I arrived late, and it's true, and apologies for that, but I came all the way from Kerry, and I thought I had calculated fairly well, but I arrived in Castle Island, which is about 20-25 miles from home, when I got a call from my wife Juliet saying a fella had arrived in the door and he had travelled 50 miles, he'd come from Waterville, he was a secretary of the club and I'm a trustee of the club, and he wanted me to sign the document because they had to have it in by Monday morning. And as I won't be back in Kerry until next Friday, because I'm working in Dublin at the minute, I turned around and went back and signed the document for him. So that's the reason I'm late. Good enough reason. But I suppose a club that's called after Kerrymen, it's only appropriate that a number of Kerry people should be here tonight. I know Michael Walsh is here, and the great Micheál Murcatig, the voice of Gaelic games for the last 50 years, and I'm pleased to be here as well, because O'Rahilly was a great Kerryman. He died in action in 1916. This club was founded in 1916, and the fact that you chose the Kerryman as the name for your club means that you'll always have a very close association with Kerry, and we're proud of you, and long may you continue to be successful. As Adrian said, I was fortunate over the last number of years to get to know many Tyrone people, and during that time, I was very good to Tyrone. In fact, I was by far and away the best president Tyrone ever had. Because my first year I presented you with the Sam Maguire, second year he won the minor final, and the third year he won the Sam Maguire again, beating Kerry in the final. And you know, most Kerry people, even though they didn't probably say so publicly, they were actually pleased for Tyrone when they won the All-Ireland final last year. And the reason was because we kind of stole one from you in 1986. You should have beaten us in 1986 when Kevin McCabe down there, John Lynch and Damien all were involved, so it was only justice done. So well done to Tyrone, and it was a pleasure to see you getting those successes over the last couple of years. I suppose there are two aspects to every club. The internal affairs, and obviously they're vital because that takes in 95–97% of a club, and that involves playing the game and taking part and score and everything else that's on, and you certainly have done that. And noticing their little brochure for tonight, you've been successful at all levels in the county, under 14, under 16, minor, intermediate, reserve, and then the 3 senior in a row, 58, 59 and 60, and then Damien reminded me tonight of stopping Coal Island from getting the 3 in a row in 1951. Justice done, Damien, I suppose. But certainly, the internal affairs of clubs are vital, and I think you'll all agree with me that the vast majority of people in any club don't go on to any representative level in terms of administration or probably playing beyond their own club. But they are the life and soul of the club. People who wash jerseys, take youngsters around, line fields, and so forth, sell lottery tickets. And you have been doing that for 90 years, and in particular I'd like to pay tribute to those who are now along with us tonight, who paved the way for you, and certainly I think they'll be proud of you here tonight with over 600 people celebrating the spirit of Clonore O'Reilly's. Well done to you. I mentioned Kevin McCabe, an outstanding footballer, probably the best you produced, and also the McClures, outstanding players, and hopefully you'll produce many more. But over the last couple of weeks, I was out in Malawi with a former great Tyrone person who's down there at the minute. He's a bit of an acrobat and a trapeze artist and a coach. That's John Lynch and his wife Christine. So it's a pleasure to meet you out in Tyrone. We had some good times out there, but all those who contributed to the fundraising, etc., it was very worthwhile. And as a result of John's good work, there are people out there at this very minute, and they're practicing the skills of Gaelic football. You never know, one or two might come back here and play for you and help to bring you a county championship in years to come. I suppose the GA is all about friendship at the end of the day. We make friends. Logie said that he was a friend of mine, and he is. I got to know him a number of years. Many great friends here. And I suppose what keeps us all together, keeps us all going, is our love of our culture. And that goes back to you in 1916. It's still as strong as ever, and we hope it will continue to grow, because our culture, particularly when we look at cultures abroad, our culture is better than any culture in the world. Our Dangadukas, our games, hurling and football, our music, our song and our dance. And it is the GA's post, more than any organisation, that has helped to keep that alive over the years, and certainly we will play our part in the future as well, in conjunction with other organisations like Kyotos and so forth, and all those. But certainly we are proud of our culture. It's a great culture, and we're going to continue to promote it, hopefully for another 100 years at least. So I won't delay much further other than to say that, as I said, 1916 is a very, very special year. It's probably the most celebrated year in our history because it was probably the most obvious strike for freedom that was made in the long history of Ireland. But 10 years' time, it's going to be celebrated in a huge way. I was fortunate to be involved this year in the GPO when the government organised the celebration. But 10 years' time, it's going to be huge. And I think for a club like Clonard O'Rahilly's, you should have a 10-year plan. And hopefully, within those 10 years, I would have two wishes for you. Number one, you'd produce a player that would win an All-Ireland senior medal with Tyrone. And number two, that you'll win a county senior championship. That's part of the job. So, Corda, on behalf of everybody in Kerry, we're proud of Clonard O'Rahilly's. We wish you well. I'm delighted to be here with you. And particularly, I'd like to thank Pat Darcy and everybody in Tyrone for the 3 wonderful years I had as chairman, and particularly as Uchtron. Coming up here to Tyrone, I was always given a céad míle fáilte. People in Tyrone couldn't have been nicer to me. Myself and my wife and all my family will always be grateful to the people of Tyrone for your courtesy and your friendship at all times. Go mí maith go léir.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sean Kelly. Mr. Chairman, Reverend Fathers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow athletes. It's an honour for me as a Clarksman to be here tonight. Yes, I'm from Dungannon, and you would know that nothing much happens in Dungannon. We're not twinned with anyone. We're considering a suicide pact with Dunloy, but that's about it. And I was slightly late too, Mr. President, because there was a robbery in Dungannon tonight, and the police issued a statement. They were looking for 4 people. They were looking for 3 locals and a white man. I'm a past pupil of the Academy of Fodrig in Dungannon. Jesus, the bullies were rough in the academy, weren't they? I remember the bullies. The bullies in the academy used to get you and pull your hair. And the bullies in the academy would get you and they'd pull your cheeks. And the bullies in the academy would get you on a really cold morning and put your wee bum against a red hot radiator. And then the bullies would go off and teach. But then that's nuns for you. Anyway. But I have to say, I know I'm from Dungannon, but I can say one thing, at least Dungannon's not as bad as Killeisland. How do you know our Lord wasn't from Killeisland? He failed 3 times and never claimed once. The height of confusion in Killeisland, Father's Day. I'm happy enough. The Féinard won the nod dinner for about 3 years. I'm all right. Malachi Duffin, I met Malachi in the hall, in the foyer. Malachi, you there, aren't you? I met Malachi. He says to me, Logie, let me 10p. I want to ring a friend. Says, hey, Malachi, there's 20. Ring them all. What about the 2 boys lying in bed? You talk, listen, about Northern Ireland, about our history. 2 boys lying in the Royal Victoria Hospital. Tubes come out everywhere. The first boy wheels himself up, looks across to the boy on the other side of the bed and goes, potty. He goes back down again. The other boy lifts him up, looks across, he goes, somewhere. Lifts him up again, he goes, Falls Road. The boy comes up, he says, Shankill Road. He says, Saltwick. The boy lifts him up, Rangers. The boy pulls himself up again, looks across and says, Cancer. And your boy lifts him up, looks across and says, Sagittarius. I'm nearly finished. I like these last 2. I'll give you these 2 and then we'll move on to the real entertainment. Is this wee boy walking through a nudist camp with his mummy and daddy? He's there about 5 minutes and he turns to his mummy and he says, "Mummy, there's a woman standing over there. And she's got she's got bigger boobies than you, Mummy." And she says, "Pay no attention, son." She says, "The bigger they are, the stupider they are." So he walked on another wee bit and he says, "Dottie, there's a boy standing over there, Dottie, and he's got a bigger..." Sorry, I'll do my best here. He's got a bigger... Hey, were you there, were you? Hey. He's got a bigger doof than you, Dottie. He says, "Pay no attention, son. The bigger they are, the stupider they are." So 10 minutes later, he runs over to his mummy. He says, "Mummy, Dottie's standing over there in the corner and he's talking to a very, very, very stupid woman. And you know, the more he talks, the stupider he gets." I'll finish off this last one. Then we'll do heads and tails with 500 cash for the winner of heads and tails. Jerry Adams is at a passing out parade in Tripoli with Colonel Gaddafi. They're all watching the troops walking by, and Gaddafi turns to him, he says, "Jerry." He's from Ballymena. He says, "Jerry, I have the finest, bravest soldiers in all the world." And Adams goes, "The right Gaddafi?" He says, "Yes." He says, "Mustafa." Mustafa comes out, attention. He says, "Mustafa, for all you believe in, for the cause, and for me, your leader, Colonel Gaddafi, take that gun out of your holster and shoot yourself." He stands to attention. Out comes the gun. What a mess, throwing buckets of water around to wheel him away, you know. Gaddafi says, "What about that, Jerry?" So Jerry comes out and he goes, "Right, Shimmy, get out here now." So Shimmy comes out, he goes, "All right, Jerry, what do you want there, big lad? You name it. What do you want? Go on, what do you think? You name it. No bore. What do you want, Jerry? What do you want?" He says, "Shimmy, for all you believe in, for the cause, and for me, your leader, Jerry Adams, take that shooter out of your holster and plug yourself." Jerry, go away, you, and plug yourself. And Adams turns to Gaddafi and he says, "Hey, Gaddafi, are any of your men brave enough to tell you to fuck off?" Boys and girls, heads and tails on your feet, £500, come along, everybody on your feet, come up. On your heads or on your bum, here we go, both hands now, come on. £500 cash for the winner. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, it's tails. If your hands are on your bum, stay standing. The rest of you, sit down. Now you can change your mind, on your head or on your bum again. Let's go, come on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's heads. If your hands are on your head, stay standing. The rest of you, sit down. Come on, folks, keep them awake here. Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this time it's heads. If your hands are on your head, stay standing. The rest of you, bye-bye. Right, here we go again. Come on. Damien O'Hagan's still very much in the hunt. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's tails. If your hands are on your bum, stay standing. The rest of you, bye-bye. Here we go again now, come on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this time it's heads. If your hands are on your head, stay standing. The rest of you, bye-bye. Come on, folks, keep them going in your corners. Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, now, no cheating here now. It's tails. If your hands are on your arse, stay standing. The rest of you, look, what I tell you, there's that many balloons in this hall. And I don't mind these black and white ones. There's that many balloons in the hall, I can't see us all. So whoever's left, come on out to the front to see us here. Come on. Come on out to see us, come on. Who's left? Come on out to see us, come on. Come on out here onto the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's tails. If your hands are on your bum, stay standing. The rest of you, bye-bye. Right, they're spread out to see us here. Right. Here we go again. Right, boys, where you go? Sit down now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's heads. If your hands are on your head, stay standing. The rest of you, bye-bye. How many do we have? Clean up at the breather. Right, we just go. How many do we have? 4 of us. Right now, come on. Let's go now. On your heads or on your bum, 500 cash we'll have here front. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's heads. Right, girls, come here a second. Girls, if you had any brains, and I know you're from Clonoe, and I would agree with this, I would toss nothing. I would take this 500 and take 250 each. What do you think? Ladies and gentlemen, there's your 2 winners tonight in heads and tails. Show your appreciation to the 2 girls. We're coming now to a wee bit more seriousness because we invite this next gentleman to speak to us because we want to hear what he has to say. Sean Kelly rightly described him as the voice of Gaelic games, the man who kept it going, the man who kept our tradition and our culture at its highest level because of his endeavours and his beautiful voice and his lovely storytelling. That's why he's our guest of honour tonight. So let's give a very special and a very courteous response to the one and only Micheál O'Mara.
Could you remove those balloons, please? Lord na Park and Chin. Tog na balloons, I want to be able to see the screen. Throw them down to John Lynch down on your left. There'll be a little bit of action on the screen. It will come down from the right-hand corner there, but you'll see it any part of the room. It's about a famous match in which Clonoe took part. It's on the way. 1-2 for the Island, going for 3 in a row. 4 points for Clonoe as Kevin McCabe sends it over the bar. The flag is waved. It cannot be registered on the scoreboard until the ball lands. It has now landed in Dungannon. The scoreboard is right, and here's Shane Doherty with the kick out. Big Harry McClure breaks it down. Here's Kevin McCabe again, meditating like an all-star can. What will he do next? A lovely pass aside. Here comes Bosco. Agustin Cool Bosco. And in the space of 45 seconds, they were a point behind and they're gone a goal clear. And there's Bosco, deceptively slow on the run out after scoring the goal. That was 1991 when Clonoe said no to 3 in a row for the Island. Ní léon áit códas leve a kind non so in our vodka. I know they come from down and they come from Tyrone because this is a fantastic room to have an occasion like this. 650 people present from a parish, a small parish, that the parish priest told me it's only a few miles long and a few miles wide. Give yourselves a good bowl of bus. Now, there are non-Clonoe people present. And this is the first opportunity I have had in years to thank my good friend Damien O'Hagan for a day that he rescued me. I was coming, I think it was to Castleblaney for a match, and Tyrone were playing. But Phelan and Isle was on down in Thurles, and I normally did the parade for Phelan and Isle before going to the match that day. And a helicopter was put at my disposal. And it landed outside the grounds behind one of the goals. And as I came out of the helicopter, I could see the Tyrone team outside the dressing room just calmly waiting. And the next thing I saw, a bit of commotion. And I learned later it was John Lynch. He thought it was the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, who had a habit at the time of helicoptering everywhere, and that he was coming to see an Ulster semi-final. And John Lynch said that man is not getting in here, and he was jumping the gate to get out until Damien caught him. And if Damien hadn't caught John Lynch that day, I would not have been commentating. But still, John Lynch is a great character, the only man, besides one famed All Black, that broke a plaster off a broken hand, went out, played his game, and went back to the doctor and asked him to replace it. And he made a full recovery. Now, what I decided to talk about, when you had the chairman of the county board earlier on and different speakers, and the lovely DVD we saw outlining in a very short time the fantastic progress that Clonoe have made from their foundation in 1916 to the present day. Teams, honours, championships, facilities, and it's very, very apparent that the whole community is part of it, and that's the best thing of it. As Dord Michel Hénig may he, she's and son, it's good for us at times to reflect on the past. And I'll just tell you about what the first All-Ireland final was like. Because I have a habit looking up old newspapers, old books that were written about the times. We all know what Croke Park is today and what it is an All-Ireland final day. Let it be Armagh, Tyrone or Kerry or Galway or Mayo, it doesn't matter, it's a fantastic day and a fantastic place. But in the first All-Ireland final ever, Limerick Commercials were playing against Young Ireland's from County Louth. And I read in the Limerick Leader, Limerick travelled by train to Dublin, not quite sure where the final would be played. Somebody met them in Dublin and told them to be played in a field called the Big Bank out in Clonskee. They didn't know where Clonskee was. They made further inquiries. They were told, if you get horse trams in O'Connell Street, they might take you there. They went and they hired 2 horse trams on the way to where they didn't know, Big Bank Field in Clonskee. And then the account said, when they came to the angle, and I don't know where the angle was, it may have been around where Ranelagh is today, the man said his horses were getting tired, he wouldn't take them any further, and the Limerick team got out of the horse trams and they walked the rest of the way, and they found themselves eventually in the Big Bank. And the reason the first All-Ireland final was played there was most fields had no place where the spectators could stand, where they could see a little bit of it. But this field in Clonskee had a big, rough, natural bank. I don't know how Louth got there, but Limerick won that first All-Ireland. And I remember the fantastic night Tyrone had when they got their All-Ireland medals for the first time, 2003. I remember when Donegal got their first one in 1992, and I remember several other firsts. But when did Limerick get the All-Ireland medals that they won for the All-Ireland of 1887? They didn't get their medals until 1912. So when you think of those little details about how it all started, you'll appreciate the fantastic progress that has been made, and it has been made thanks to the people that their photographs flashed up there, going back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, right back to 90 years, Nadina Viaun or Hosnig She, and they had a vision. And I've heard more than once tonight the speakers here talking about looking forward and planning, and even Sean Kelly told you, be thinking now of 10 years' time. Wouldn't it be wonderful in the year 2016, the centenary of Clonau, if I was broadcasting an All-Ireland club final with Clonau playing in it against a team from Kerry, seeing that the O'Rahilly was the man honoured in naming the club. Now, it mightn't happen. There's nothing wrong in hoping that it would happen. There's nothing wrong in planning to make sure that we'll do every effort that it would happen. And of course, then you'd have the captain of the Kieran team, agus alán rudí cosúla sin. Rud amháin eile sulla síigh me síos táis go bhfuil arán rudí eile le tacht. We know now that Croke Park is the envy of the world. And I've seen and I've heard people from Australia that viewed it and said, the MCG is magnificent, but we have never seen anything like that. And I was in the Australian dressing room when they walked around examining every little bit of it, and the one word that came from lots of them, and we think they're big, strong, tough men that care about nothing, was fantastic. And that's the way it is. There was a time when there was no Croke Park. And when it was decided to hold championships for the first time in 1887, the GAA had no pitch anywhere. They hadn't a square yard of ground that they could call their own. A decision was taken to have an All-Ireland Championship, but where will we play? Boyacus Moor Ledee, a landlord by the name of Lord de French, who owned acres and acres of land around where Ellen Park Golf Club is now in Dublin and Vincent Hospital, he said, I will place my lands at the disposal of this new association to run their first ever All-Ireland. That's the first time that the phrase All-Ireland was used. And the first game ever was played in Lord de French's lawn in Ellen Park. And Limerick Commercial played the very first game ever against a team called Doudstown of County Meath. The Bhí an Cleithe go maith, and so impressed was Lord de French that he gave the first Man of the Match ever award. It's not a new thing by sponsors. The very first game ever, in the very first championship, there was a Man of the Match award, and you know what it was? The Limerick player, Malachy O'Brien, a little man, he was offered to come to dinner with Lord and Lady de French. That was 1887. We've come a long way. We've our own landlords now like Sean Kelly, like Nicky Brennan, like Paddy McFlynn, like all the presidents that went before, and they're the people that invite us all to Croke Park on All-Ireland final days and days Cosúlash. It's a great night for Clonau. I was contacted a long time ago to know would I come here tonight. I didn't have to turn back to put a signature on anything. And it shows you how honest the Kerry people had. The Waterville man in another age, he might have said, sure, I know how Sean Kelly signs his name. And he could have saved himself a journey from Waterville to Killarney and back, and he could save Sean Kelly turning back, and she could save Juliet the trouble of ringing Sean. It shows the power of the women in Kerry. When Juliet said, come back, Sean, he came back. And Rod Derna Derek me, wherever I go, lots of people ask me, what is the greatest thing about the GAA? And it's not All-Ireland finals, and it's not medals, and it's not all-stars and things like that. But it's the wonderful way that it brings the whole community together. The young are given a cause to follow the team, to aspire to becoming the team themselves, and to pass it on to the next generation. I think that's the wonderful thing. It makes a community out of a group of people, And that's what Irish people abroad miss mostly when they're away, the sense of community. It's very obvious that that is very, very much alive in Clonau. Go mara sé no bliain eile. And la cún of day, we'll all be back here 10 years from now when Clonau will be 100 years old. Go to míle maith agad go léir. Go to míle maith.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the sign of the man who gets a standing ovation before he speaks and a standing ovation after he speaks. Would you please welcome Mr. Niall Crozier. Niall.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, players, members, friends of Clonau, and brief, ladies and gentlemen. I have to follow Sean. I have to follow Micheál, who, as Logie pointed out, gets applauded on and gets applauded off. And I'm a fucking Protestant. Which, whoa. It simply goes to prove how far the peace process has come. That I am prepared to come here and face 600 of you with no guarantees with regards to my personal safety whatsoever, because Logie said, I think they'll like you. Thanks, Adrian. I'm described in the programme as a comedian. That's a lie. I am a journalist who does a bit of after-dinner speaking. And I didn't even want to be a journalist, because in truth, I really wanted to be an actor. And I thought I cracked it when I successfully auditioned for the part of Snoozy in So White and the Seven Dwarfs. Alas, my thespian career was brief, though spectacular. Please believe me when I tell you that I completely misunderstood what the director had in mind when she shouted, "Enter Snow White" from the rear. It was a simple misunderstanding, but it got a hell of a round of applause from the other 6 midgets. Snow White herself was less impressed. She branded me a pervert, and I took exception to that. Erotogenic, I will perhaps concede, but perverse, never, and there is a difference, even if that comes as news to John Lynch. For his benefit, if I could explain, John, whereas eroticism would involve light, sensuous touches with, say, 1 or 2 feathers, perversion would involve altogether more robust activity with the entire chicken. So, anyway, I don't know why the overheads have been taken away. I was looking forward to that out-of-body experience that Logie described to me, where you're in this city hotel in Armagh and you see yourself looking down on yourself. But being a Protestant among the people of Clonau, I know there's 600 of you looking down on me already, so I can live with that. Thank you for the invitation to attend the Taggart Family's Gala occasion. I heard John Joe telling people earlier this evening, just as I arrived, that he had organised the whole thing more or less single-handedly. And just in case there's any doubt, we have, of course, a picture of Brian on the front page of the programme. I have attended many nights like this, but I have to say, without fear of contradiction, that this, without doubt, is the longest wait I've ever had to endure before finally being called upon to speak. Is there anybody who is anybody in the GAA who hasn't been up here? Given that we're in Armagh, I was waiting for Jarlath and Joe Kernan to come on. Maybe a South Armagh version of Little Britain. If you can get your head around that particular idiosyncrasy, because there's Little of Britain in South Armagh, Silverbridge across McLean. And then I thought, no, this is a Tyrone club do. This is in-house. They won't want insiders, which is why I have spent the past 4 hours wondering why the hell you wanted me to be here. Because as I said to you, I'm a prod, which is a bit like coming out. Only whoa. I'm not coming out. I have enough going against me. I'm not gay. I am a fully fledged, not fully grown, but fully fledged heterosexual, the father of 2 lovely kids and 2 who are quite ugly. But Protestant. And since I appear to be the only one here, I reckon that some smartass in the Clonau O'Reilly, and I couldn't pronounce that up until 20 minutes ago. I was hoping somebody would say that so that I would know what that meant. Because to me, you see, that makes no sense at all. This wee thing over it. R-A-T-H. I say H, you say H. That's okay. Well, I'll follow it. H or H. A-I-L-L-E. I was looking at that and saying, what the fuck is that? But seemingly, that is O'Rahale. Yeah. Clonau O'Rahale. Yeah. Sláinte. Pete Brickett. It's fairly coming on. No, I reckon somebody smart in the Clonau Club reckoned that if you could bring the smallest prod in Ireland here to cause no threat, you would qualify for a cross-community grant. And good people of Clonau, to whom I'm warming because you're warming to me. Fuck, we're flying now. I've ordered 3 pints of stout, I'll sing the soldier song. Not only am I a prod, but I am from Portadown. For any of you who aren't familiar with my hometown, NBC News once described us as being a suburb of Drumcree. We are twinned. Logie was saying that they couldn't get twinning. We are twinned with LaGrange in Georgia, USA, and with Lurgan. And I grew up in Portadown. I say grew up, I use the word very loosely. I lived in Kilgabane, which may or may not mean anything to you. If it doesn't mean anything to you, it makes the Shankle and Sally Row look like 2 Curry Miller projects. And my parents were working class dissenters, which is a polite way of saying Presbyterian. But not free, no, fuck, we paid. And though small in stature, because of them, seemingly they decided they hadn't given me enough disadvantages in life. I was the smallest kid growing up in Kilgabane, and they decided to call me Niall. Which could be likened to a Jewish kid growing up in Tel Aviv with the name Adolf. So, I quickly worked out that if physically I wasn't big enough to defend myself, I had to be fairly lippy. I had to be able to talk my way out of situations into which I might have talked myself. So it was all about verbals. And perhaps my standing here, and I am standing despite what your eyes may be telling you, my standing here before you tonight may be a latter-day outworking of that, because I was never frightened to be lippy. I was frightened of getting my shit kicked in, but always I was given a bit of that, and hopefully I could escape, and I did. I escaped through life with very little physical punishment. I am told, and I have read, that in this country, by which I mean the United Kingdom and Ireland, thereby satisfying all aspirations, The people, we have this in common. The thing that terrifies people most is not rats, not mice, not snakes, not spiders. No. The prospect of having to stand before a crowd and speak. Fathers of brides at weddings freeze. New husbands of new brides freeze. Best men don't know where to turn. They go to the bar. They get lamped and make fools of themselves. To stand up and speak in public, seemingly, is the most terrifying thing you can do. Logie, does that frighten you? No. No, Logie's all lip. He's not frightened of that at all. Frank Mitchell should be frightened. He's a fucking idiot. Julian should be frightened. And his parents should be embarrassed to let him out and do what he does on Friday nights about Coronation Street. But he does it. But there are more terrifying things than to be standing up here addressing you. I have friends of all faiths and none. I was at a Muslim guy's birthday party the other night. I do have to say, it was the worst birthday party I've ever been at in my life. No drink. Absolutely no drink. And the fastest fucking game of pass the parcel I have ever been involved in. But I was talking to him and he gave me a tip. Because you know the way we're all scared to death now of traveling in airplanes. He said, when you get on an airplane, say at Belfast International or George Best Alcoholic Airport, sit on your seat and hum the first couple of bars of the Iraqi national anthem. If somebody else stands up and starts singing, that's your cue to get off. It's been alluded to earlier tonight by your excellent speakers, Sean and Michal, and prior to them, Pat, who's had to go to another function. The GAA is something very special, and I'm being serious now. I speak as someone who's coming from the opposite side of the house. I don't have an opposite side of the house. I don't want to get into that stuff, but it was not part of my upbringing. It was not part of my culture. But I have had enough dealings with the GAA in recent times to realize that what you have is unique. My background is rugby. There is not a rugby club in Ireland that could do what you have done tonight. I would say there's not a rugby club in the world could do what you have done tonight. Your ability to bring together an entire community from the ages of 4 to 84 is special. Perhaps because that's always been part of your upbringing, you are complacent about it. Don't be. You have something that other people don't have, but they look on you with envy and say, would to God that we could do what they are able to do. Look at the way they unite their people together. You have a tremendous organization. And the strength of your clubs, as is shown here tonight, is the strength of the GAA. As a token prod who has helped you get across community grant, I am very honored to have been invited to join you this evening. I hope that the rest of your night goes as well as the early part of the night, and I hope that your next 10 years, as you roll towards your century, will, as suggested by Sean, prove to be part of a 10-year plan which sees you reach fruition in 2016. Ladies and gentlemen of Clonoe, thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, show your appreciation to Niall Crozier, please. Thank you very much indeed, Niall. Good lad, Niall. Thanks very much, son. Would you give another special welcome to the one and only Sean Kelly? And this is a Cull Island Craft Turf. Isn't this what it is, the presentations are? Yes. Or is it Island Craft, like we call it, isn't it? Island Turf. Beautiful presentation. The second Kerry man tonight to be honoured. Will you please welcome again Mícheál Ó Muircheartaigh. And we have one final presentation. Joe Traynor is with us tonight as a member of the Tyrone Society in Philadelphia. And Joe is going to give a special presentation to the chairman of Clonau Gaelic Football, the GSE, to Sean McAlliskey. Very special presentation on this very, very special night.
Ladies and gentlemen, not only is it a pleasure, it's a privilege to be back among you again. This plaque from the Tyrone Society in Philadelphia, to present it to Sean. Where'd you go to? It reads, the Clonau O'Rahilly Football Club, in recognition for all your past achievements and wish to continue success on your 90th anniversary. Tyrone Society, Philadelphia, President Joe Traynor.
What I would like to do is if I could ask Mícheál Ó Muircheartaigh if he would come forward and pick out the top prize for us. Mícheál would appreciate that. And ladies and gentlemen, just on behalf of the committee, the response to the footballs has been absolutely exceptional. And before we even do this, show your appreciation to yourselves. You've been a fabulous audience here tonight, and a credit to Clonau. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mediterranean cruise for 2 people. It's a green ticket and it's number, I'll tell you in a few minutes. Okay. Throw that down there, thank you. 070. Ladies and gentlemen, going on the cruise, the Mediterranean, Kieran Devlin. Kieran, there's your champagne too. No, here we go, the 42 inch. We're going to take it out. Ticket number. You pick out 3 tickets. Pick one of them, pick one of them. Put those back in. Ladies and gentlemen, there's somebody in there. Take a look at your football. The number is 0582. Do we have a winner? I don't want to lose these here and make a mistake in who I'm giving awards to. Where'd that pen go? Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and of course remember after this, we're dancing to the fabulous Boogie Men. They'll be on stage. Number 0531. We'll have a winner here, boys. There's your ticket there. The weekend, that's the spot. What's that bottle there now? Number 5. Number 6 is a helicopter ride. I'll go on to the bar. No, 0460. Thank you very much, lads. Next up, 1 year gym membership. The gym is paint voucher to the value of the voucher for £200 goes to 0236. Next we have a drinks hamper. We'll stay awake with £150. Going well here, folks. Rattle 0569. Number 13, 100 gallons of home heating oil. I think at table 30, is that right? 03, there you are in front of you, 0349. Now, Meal for four goes to 0103. 0103. Do we have one at the very back there? There you go. Right, we move on to the second page. Number 0434. 0434 wins a cosmetics hamper. We'll take the next one out now. Is a tire voucher to the value of 100. The piece of Tyrone crystal goes to 0396. Thank you. After the crystal now comes a framed picture. 7, the furniture voucher. Number 22, a beauty therapy voucher to the value of £100. That's right. Look nicely. We're into the middle of the field now. 2 All-Ireland final hurling tickets. We're in now to table number 24, a CD stereo system and a meal for 2. We have a lady in the... Here you are, Sean, there you go. 0365 wins the CD system. Moving. Next, a signed Henry Cooper picture. Henry Cooper here. Down to the last 3, a Christmas hamper. As we hear the final parting words from your chairman tonight, Sean McAlliskey. Ladies and gentlemen, courtesy.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you very much. Folks, it's been an enjoyable night. Thanks be to God to see it over. I don't mean that in a bad way, but the pressure comes off now. It's been a successful night. Thank you very much for your support. As I say, it's been a marvellous occasion. It's a proud event for the club to hold, and it's a proud night for you, for the support that you have showed. I'd like to thank Michael and Sean for appearing here tonight to make this night such a success, and I wish them a safe journey home. Thank you, boys. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Father Tremere, our parish priest, for staying with us tonight. Thank you, Father. I'd like to thank Niall Crozier, our comedian, or as he called himself, the stand-up guy. Thank you very much, Niall. And last but not least, folks, our guest is to talk about, put your hands together for our MC for the night, Adrian Logan. Thank you, Adrian. For the record, folks, when you go home, if you want to complete the programme, if you take a look, we made a mistake. We missed out on a name. We didn't put Adrian's name in the programme. So tomorrow morning when you're waking up, first thing, boys, before you take your breakfast, put Adrian's name in it. But however, thank you to Armagh City Hotel for the nice feed. Enjoy yourselves the rest of the night. And thank you once again very much. Bye-bye now.
Take my hand. I asked again last night. Your love is so divine. Well, I waited as long as I can. It's like the X Factor on Saturday night. Oh, gotta make you understand. I don't want you but mine. Well, I've wasted my time. It as long as I can. Well, I've waited for you to say I love me, say I love me. I'm long, but they take my hand. And I asked again last night, your love is so divine. Well, I've waited as long as I can. Woo-hoo! So now we say goodbye. Tears are gone from my eyes. as I can. I'm waiting for you to sail up, sail up. I long for the day you take my hand. And I asked again last night, your love is so divine. Well, I've waited as long as I can. Well, I'm waiting for you to sail up, sail up. I long for the day you take my hand. And I asked again last night, your love is so divine. I've waited as long as I can. Grab your partner. Keep on dancing. Now gonna remind you of the blanket on the ground. Remember back when love was found us, we were stepping out of town. We walked beneath the moonlight, laying a blanket on the ground. I'll take the blanket from the river. We go walking once again to that spot down by the river, where our sweet love first began. Just because we are made, don't mean we can't separate. So let's walk out to the moonlight, lay the blanket on the ground. Oh, remember how excited we used to get when we were young. We don't know what's our best buddy. We couldn't wait for night to come. Oh, you know you still excite me, even though we're not that young. I wish once more you'd say you love me on the blanket on the ground. Let's see you sing along. I'll take the blanket from the river. We go walking once again to that spot down by the river, where our sweet love first began. Just because we are married, don't mean we can't stick around. So let's walk out to the